Hi, friends. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Angela with Wild Violets Art. This morning, I'm going to be using part of the Floral Delight Suite Collection from the January to April mini catalog before it retires. I've had this since the beginning. I wasn't sure I wanted any of it because, as you can see, it's all yellow. There's just lots and lots of yellow. And I'm okay with the color yellow in the fall and maybe a soft, baby pastel yellow in the spring. But to have something that's predominantly yellow, it doesn't attract me. So, but I really love the dies and the stamp set that come with it. So I found what I liked out of the suite. I'll show you that here in just a minute. We're going to make this really beautiful scrapbook. I'm going to show you how to make the scrapbook layout. I've made one page and I'm going to show you what the second page. So before I get into that, I just wanted to share with you one of my devotions this week was from a book called Defiant Joy, and it's by Stacey Eldridge. And I have found a lot of comfort from it because in all the rough times that my husband and I have had over the last since COVID, and he started getting blood clots, and we had some terrible scares with that. We moved out here, which wasn't a bad thing, but then losing Christina and his diagnosis with cancer, and then losing my dad. It's just been a waterfall of bad news. But one of the things that, God holds us to is to find joy even in rough times. And so this book that I have been reading called Defiant Joy, it just kind of presses forward in spite of it all. So one of the verses that I got this week that I really enjoyed was Romans 5, verse 3 through 5. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So that sums it up. I don't want perseverance. I don't want patience. Um, I don't want to have to go through those things, but we have to anyway, and we have to come out the other side feeling joyful, if at all possible, or even during finding joy. And it's hard, I have to tell you. I know that that's something my husband really worked at because he was the one struggling more than me. So finding that joy can be really, really tough. But coming out the other side, knowing that you're going to make it, that you found a way to encourage others when they're struggling. The grief share gives me a chance to give back and encourage somebody else that's having a hard time with losing part of their family. So we know that through God, through Jesus Christ, we get so much more out of this life. And we always have the hope of seeing our loved ones again, and having bodies that don't have cancer. So anyway, sorry about the losing it. I seem to do that a lot. I am happy. Since he's gone through all of his surgeries and we've had good margins. My brain is clear. My heart feels better. It's a lot lighter, but I find I can't talk about it. So anyway, okay, about this beautiful layout. So let me just put this aside for a second and let me kind of talk to you about the suite. So the Floral Delight Suite has this beautiful script wishing, and I love it because it's got so many pretty things that you can do with it. And so I'm just trying to ignore the fact that there's a lot of yellow and find elements about this that I can work with. So that's why I wanted to do the scrapbook page. So the things that I was attracted to was this vellum. because the pool party is definitely a color. This yellow is a lot lighter. And even though I do like the background pages or the back side of these, I'm not a fan of these for whatever reason. But and it's hard to see the dies here, but you can see the stamp set and dies. There's these itty bitty little bees. Let me show you. So let me just kind of show you the elements of the suite. So we've got the delightful wishes, and I love it. It's wishing you were here, wishing you all the best, wishing you a happy birthday, wishing you lots of love, wishing you well. Just really beautiful. And we'll play with these and make cards with them on Mondays. So be sure to tune in for that. And then we've got this really beautiful set of dies. It's actually two sides of dies, so it's not just one. Let me just pull this out for you. So we've got these dies that create the 3D, and they do not match any of the stamps. And then we've got these that match the stamps. And I love this twig. And then this is the wishing. And then this is the little die for the sentiment. And then this is a really pretty, it almost makes like an eyelet. And so again, we'll work on that next week. And then here's the bumblebees. They're called tiny bee trinkets, and they're really little. And I don't want you just to see the back, but you can see how cute they are. Hopefully this stops being blurry and you can see they're really tiny, but they're really pretty, and they add really pretty elements to, and I've used them before for cards and scrapbooking, but they're pretty. Just adding a little element of bling to this really pretty layout. And you can see it just kind of adds to the flowers. And also, as you can see, these flowers are 3D. So you can see how they pop up off the page. Now, obviously, over years, being in a scrapbook binder, they're going to flatten out. But I always like to start with them being 3D because it just makes me happy. So, okay. And so one of the other things, like I mentioned, was this vellum. And I love the pool party check. And then this is like a little floral with a little sweet bit of yellow in it. So this check is, I think, my favorite. And then there's this one as well. So one of the things that I did, because I didn't want yellow in my layout. I wanted the pinks. I wanted the petal pink and the pretty and pink. What I did is I used the pretty and pink blend, and I colored the yellow on the vellum. So you can see this is what the vellum looks like. But by coloring it with my blend, I permanently changed the color so that it matched my layout. So just because something is a particular color doesn't mean it has to stay. Now, I did try to see if I could color these, and it still kind of has a really harsh yellow color to it. So I'm not a fan of, I like these lighter ones. And I believe these actually match the dies. So you can actually die cut this out. And let's see, how does it go? Like this. So you can actually die cut these really beautiful flowers out. So you could color them because they turn out really pretty, as you can tell, with the pink, the pretty and pink blend. So I love that you can cut out different things from this using the dies. And I believe you can cut out these flowers. So if you like them, you can. And, but I don't believe any of the leaves are part of what you can cut out. So, but, so I'm using the vellum for those things. And we'll come up with some really sweet ideas for cards on Monday again, like I mentioned, because, you know, I love this wishing so much. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else. So they just have some really fun ideas. I love this vellum on this card. And then you can see that they use the vellum on the inside of the envelope. So there's some great ideas. And this is the wishing. So this will be my title of my scrapbook page when I'm done. And there's just some different ways. You can stamp the wishing using the stamp set, or you can, and then you can stamp and die cut it out, which is what we're going to do. Or there are two pieces that you can die cut out, which this little tiny wishing is really, really thin and really, I think it's a little tough. I've used it and I've done it, and when I'm persistent, it works just fine. But it is a lot of little tiny work. So I won't be doing that today because it's a little bit too much for what I'm trying to do. And I want it to be a little bolder. So we're actually going to stamp this in pink on white cardstock, so the white willow, which is what I'm using. And then I'm going to put a little outline after we die cut it out. I'm actually going to use fussy cut with this blue check because it's so sweet. I love tiny checks, just something about it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this again, but we're going to do it with a second page. And I just want to show you first, before I put this together, how I got the watercolor for the flowers. Okay, so we're using the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and it comes in a 5x7 package as such. Sorry, let me get my nose. And we're going to watercolor this with Petal Pink, Pretty in Pink, and Pool Party, and you'll see how I got the colors for the different pieces. So let me just bring some of the pieces over. And then I also used Lost Lagoon for this. So you can just kind of get an idea of what I'm using. So I'm going to cut this in half because I want the colors not to bleed all over the place. Okay, so for the first one, whenever I'm watercoloring, I like using my stamp pads. Not everybody is a fan of doing this. And let me just put one of my blocks behind it because it helps it hold up the lid. So what I do is I just squeeze it together and it gives me color in the middle. And so I have a nice bit of color for what I'm going to be needing. Oops, that one didn't do very well. Let's try it again. It's good for the muscles. There we go. Okay. Come on, just stay. Don't be messing with my flowers. Okay. All right, and then just have a cloth for wiping up extra mess. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this with water, and we've got these little Stampin' Spritzers that Stampin' Up sells, or I have used, this was from one of those hand sanitizers, and I just emptied it and cleaned it out, and I use those as well, so I end up with a lot of them. Okay, so I'm making this nice and wet, and this is for the florals. And then I'm using one of the water painters, which I understand Stampin' Up can't get them anymore. So they're going to try to find another company that they can get them from. Okay, so this is nice and wet. And then I'm going to just add some of this Pretty in Pink. Or sorry, this is Petal Pink. And I'm going to Just add as much color as I can. You can also put your paintbrush on the ink pad as long as it's not wet and get a little extra color that way. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting a pretty wash of color across it because my flowers have a base of this petal pink. Okay, all right, so, and then have yourself a little jar of water close by so that you can rinse off your brush. And you can see that it just rinses off, and there's really no color once you've rinsed it off. So, okay. So then what I want is I'm going to look at my dies and figure out where things need to be. So this one I need here. This one I want here. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to add color in particular ways. Okay. So you understand what I'm about. And it looks like I've got little pieces of cardstock stuck in my die that I didn't clean out. Okay. All right, so I know where my dies are going to be. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything with this, but this area I want to add a little bit of the petal pink. So I'm going to wet my brush and then just radiate from the center. And it's just a soft color, not really, really heavy, but the piece that goes in the middle, so you can see where the bigger one is, the one that goes in the middle, I'm going to be doing it a lot darker. And I'm just radiating from the middle. I want lots of heavy color in the middle. And I am making it so that it's a lot darker than the other one. Can you see what I'm doing? So that's, I know that this will go here, and then this will go here. And so that way I kind of keep track of it. So this one, I know I want just a little bit. And this one, I want it to be a lot darker. And I especially want a lot of darkness in the middle. Okay, and then I can die cut that out. Okay, so for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp. Let me clean this off. I'm going to use, so there's two stamps. There's one that is the background, but I've already watercolored the background, so I don't need this one. And this one is the detail, and I do want that one. So I'm going to just stamp that. Make sure I've got enough room. So this is the detail that will show up in the middle of this. So then you don't end up with the white edges. And so you just end up with a real pretty floral. Okay, so I put that aside. And then I'm going to bring the dies over, and I'm going to line up the dies so they cut out the florals. Okay. And then I'm not going to bring my die cutting machine over here because I only have a small area. So what I'll do is I'll bring my plate over and move this carefully onto it. And then let's work on the greenery. Okay, we'll add that here in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to be using this and I'm going to be using these leaves. Okay, so again, I want to wet my cardstock. Use my brush. Okay, so for this, I am using the Pool Party, which turns out a little more green, less blue. And so this will be for my leaves. And so what I'm doing now is I am adding some darker color for my leaves. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll stick my leaves like so. So they have a little bit darker color. Now I need a little bit of Lost Lagoon. For my stick. And I may have to color it afterwards. And what I mean by is after I die cut it, then I can color it however I'd like. And because I think this gets too washed out. So you can kind of see where you need the color. Yeah, I may end up having to do that afterwards, which is what I had to do last time. So, okay. So that gives you an idea of how I go about coloring the different pieces. Now I'm going to leave these here because I'm probably going to need to add a little bit of color. But let me rinse off my brush, put it aside, and we'll just move this. And your paper can be damp going through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm usually pretty happy with it because it lets me create shapes. And so what I'll do is I'll bend it up. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Okay. Oh, I missed all of the areas that I wanted on the green, which doesn't surprise me. But on the florals, you can see, ooh, I bent that one, that these got right where I wanted them. Okay, so I've got some real sweet color here. So this is what you end up with afterwards. And then here's my little stick, which I'm going to add more color to. And here's my leaves. So let me just get these all brushed off. Okay. So if you have a foam pad, which I think is a really great tool, one of the things you can do is you can okay, so this actually lines up right here. So it pretty much duplicates the shape of the flower in places. And you want to look for this little spot. And then this little petal just fits right over the top of that. And then like so. So I know that this is a little far away. So you could see how this petal lines up perfectly with the petal underneath. Okay. So let me just get that back in place. I've got my two leaves, and then I've got this one. And again, it lines up like so. Okay, then I've got all my little flowers. So what I want is I want them to cup up like these have, okay? Because they will dry like that, which makes for a really fun time. Okay, so for my leaves, I am just going to kind of follow the shape. Just make a very slight indentation for both of them. And then if you have something that has a bit of a shape to it, like so, then you can just kind of, and it just cups up. Okay. So that's the leaves nicely cupped up. So you can see how they've become 3D, which is really fun. Makes them look more realistic. And then for your flowers, you just find something that has like a smaller end. You can use a pen point, whatever. And you just, once they're together, you want them to be in the same. I just push on them. And then you can see how the flowers just cup up. And I'll glue them together here in a minute, but I wanted them to be pressed at the same time so that they keep the same shape somewhat. Okay. And then for these smaller ones, let me do this one. So again, it's so beautiful when it just kind of cups up like it's meant to. And then for the smaller ones, I'm going to just use a pen. I've got my tip back, and then I'm just going to press in the middle of each one of the flowers. And there should be a little end. I'm missing one of my flowers. Oh, there it is. And I just do the end because that's, so you can see what I'm doing here. You see how you just get this really fun cupped look to the flowers. And for cards, it's even more phenomenal. But with the scrapbook, for me, it just makes me happy. I get this really beautiful 3D look. And it's exactly what I want. So we'll use some of those on Monday for our scrapbook. Okay. I need to get this so that it's darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Lost Lagoon over here. And I'm just going to make it darker because it's not dark enough. I want it to have a little contrast to the leaves. So you can see I'm just putting my painter right on the stamp pad so I get a little darker look. So okay, so the only thing that's missing is the little flower centers. So there's a die here that has the flower centers, and I use, let me put this away. I'm using the Pretty in Pink because I want that to be dark, but I want those to be extra dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just press my paper right on the stamp pad, and look how dark that is. So I want it to be really, really dark. It'll dry a little bit lighter, which is what I want. But then all I have to do is just add my die right on that paper, and I'm going to die cut that out. So let me do that real quick. And then we have all the parts and pieces that we need. For our scrapbook page. Oh, except for the title. Okay. So these two little pieces just end up in the middle. Now, I didn't take out all the little pieces that are supposed to come out because I want it to, it's going to get covered up anyway. But that way you can see it just kind of gives it a real nice, rich, dark center. So pretty. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Put this aside because we're going to use it. Put the paper aside. And I need the title. Okay. So I've got some scraps. Just put my water painters away. We're done with that part. Let's see how big the die is. Let me just put these back. Having this, I buy 5x7 magnet sheets, and then I'll add it to both sides of the cardboard that these come on, and then I have plenty of space to keep them and they don't fall off all the time, because I find that the tape stops being sticky after a while. So, okay, so I need the word wishing, and I need to make sure that it's got enough space. And then I need some of these for the sentiments, because this will fit perfectly on that. So is this big enough? Nope. So I need to use a big one. Okay, so that works. And this is scraps of Willow White, and it's a little bit brighter than the basic white. Okay, so I want this in pink. And I'm going to stamp it and make sure I have plenty of room around it, so that, because this will cut out outside of the stamped area. Okay, now I want some sentiments. So because they have these cute little sentiments, they don't always say exactly what you want. And I want it to say, wishing you lots of love, because this is my wish for this grandbaby. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp you and not ink up anything else. Make sure nothing else is inked up. And I'll stamp it. And then I want lots of love. And it needs to line up with you. So let me get this so that it's closer to me so I can try to make sure that it's lined up. And I do this all the time, where I will mix and match sentiments, and that's not quite how I wanted it. So let's do the lots of love first, and then I can do just the you, because that didn't line up quite right. And then I can use, because it says you were here, I am going to line that up with the lots. Oh, much better. So you can see what I did there. And now I can die cut this out. All right. I am going to tape this to make sure that it stays. My friend sent me this cute little, it's Post-it note, but it's thinner than the other one that I have. I bought a bunch of these, but I like it that it's thinner. Let's see if I can find where it starts. There we go. So for little stuff like this, it's nice. I want it centered. And then I can make sure that it's, hopefully my head wasn't in the way. And then I'm making sure it's catching the die and catching my sentiment, the paper. So I don't want it to miss any of that. And now I'm going to line this up and do the same thing. And I can go over the edges on this one just so that it stays in place. Then it just pops apart super easy. You can use these multiple times if you want, but after a little while they start getting sticky and they start sticking to your paper and sticking to your dies, and it leaves a residue. So it's best to just use it once or twice. And okay, so now we've got this cute little sentiment. Put this back on my die sheet. All right, back to my scrapbook page. So my pages are going to be like so. So I want my title to be on this side, or maybe I can do it in the middle. Or I can even do it on this page. So this is my stepson from my previous marriage and his first baby. And this was his girlfriend's oldest daughter. So really sweet. I loved it. This was her little Everly's birthday. Okay, so let's put this here. Okay, and then I want this on something other than white. So I'm going to take a piece of this vellum and I'm going to adhere it. I know what I meant to do. I meant to use using the adhesive sheet to help me get this so that it sticks, but we'll use glue today. Okay. So using my glue, and not much of it so it doesn't go wild. I'm going to fussy cut a portion of this. And let's make sure that it's straight on the check. And then I want just a little bit for around this sentiment as well, just so that it doesn't blend into the background. So this is where, when you're fussy cutting, I just leave my right hand and I move my cardstock so that you don't end up with a really aggravated hand. So, and I'm leaving a nice thick edge around this. And when you move your hand, or the left side instead of it, you get, I think, smoother, not always, but smoother cuts. I'm hoping you're having a good Friday. I want these to be rounded, so I may have to go back for a couple places that didn't quite turn out the way I'd wanted. So just snip the little rough edges off. There we go. Isn't that cute? Just a little sweet sentiment there. And let me see if I've got enough here. Nope, doesn't go around it enough. So I'll cut just a little piece off with my cutter. And this is about a little over 1/4 of an inch, so I need about 1/2 inch. Glue this down, and just so you can see this up close. Isn't that fun? Just a little whimsy for a baby girl. And I'm going to try to just barely replicate the pretty ends on this. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now let's get to the layout and how I added these elements. So my photos are 3.5 by 5, and because I didn't want them to be huge, I didn't want 4 by 6. But you work with whatever it is, your printer, or you can get them. Okay, so what I need now is I need glue dots on the back of this vellum because I don't want just a full-on amount of glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere glue dots to the points and midway in between. And I just let it lift from my roll of glue dots. And I don't want it to stick to anything else. And then I need 1 or 2 across this area. And that's just an easy way to get your glue dots where you want them. Okay, so now, very carefully, I am going to put this at the corner and press it down and rotate this so that it's all along here. And for some reason, not sure if it's the vellum that's not true or if it's the, so I need to start on this corner. And that way, make sure it goes from end to end. Something's not true, I'm not sure, but it's really easy. I can just trim this off myself. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here with this little piece that I colored. And I only need 3. Oops. Because these won't go anywhere once I have just a few glue dots. Some people like to do glue all the way under it, but that gets really messy. And I'm not so good at messy. Okay, so now those are in place. Now what I added was some of this petal pink scalloped ribbon that was part of the Storybook Moments collection, sweet collection. So just very sweet, you know, just a real subtle little girl thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add tear and tape from one end to the other, but I'm going to extend it beyond so that I can fold it back and get it tucked on the other side. That way they don't lift off and I don't end up with frayed edges. So I'm going to start right against the vellum and go all the way across and then extend past by about an inch. Okay. And then I'm just leaving it in place. Now I'm using my glass stamping plate that Stampin' Up! Let us get. And then just placing the ribbon just over the vellum a little bit, just a little bit of an overlap. And it just blends in so pretty with the flowers up here. So, and then I just cut this off. Okay, so now you're going to watch me figure this out again. So I glued that down and then I brought this corner down so that it's not going to show up here. Because if I just glue it back, then it just wants to be seen on that side. So again, just so you can see, I folded it back and then around so that it doesn't show up on the front. Okay, and you can see that when these are done, they'll just make a perfect little V, but so pretty. So I got inspired by somebody's really beautiful scrapbook page. Okay, so I want these about right here, and let me just make sure that it's about where it's shown on the other page. So let's just kind of put these side by side. Okay, and I'll talk about these here in a minute. And there's something about the symmetry. You don't have to do it symmetrical, and if you've got different photos with different situations, that works as well. So I think that looks good. All right, so let me just put my tear and tape across. And I only do just one piece diagonal because these go in sheet protectors when I'm done. And so let's just bring it down just a little bit because I want enough room for this to be right there. So, okay, and then this photo. And I'm just going to tuck this in. So this was right after she was born. And then okay, so these little things, the little tag, the one over here, this Hello Beautiful, this tag, Sweet Baby Hugs, this one, I've got this tag, And then this Love You Forever and Ever sentiment. Those were from the ephemera packs that Stampin' Up! Is selling, and they're going to continue these in the catalog. So one of the things I wanted to show you is this Love You is perfect because it's in Pool Party, but this is where I got the beautiful from. And if you can tell, this beautiful and that beautiful are very different. And I wanted the pretty and pink rather than this really pretty pastel pink, which is, I think it's Bubble Bath. So this Bubble Bath is pretty, but it's not the right color. I needed pretty and pink. And the Hello works because it's the pretty and pink. So what I did is, again, is I got my blends. I got the dark and I colored it the color I needed. And the same thing for this Hugs. This was, again, the Bubble Bath, and I needed it to be pretty and pink. So I just colored over that portion of it so that it matched the way I wanted it to. So feel free to use your blends. I think that's great. So this is the Say Something ephemera pack. And this one is the Labels and Layers ephemera pack. So you can see this is this one right here. And then I was able to find this Pool Party color. So, and then the Sweet Baby, I believe was from another ephemera pack. Yeah, this one was from the Greetings for All Mix and Match. So I needed something about the baby. Okay. So now I just need to figure out where I'm going to put what. So I may have to put this title on this side because I have this Love You Forever. I'm going to cover up that yellow because I'm not a fan. Okay, so let me just add a little bit of tear and tape to the back of this. I forget that I work off of screen, and I apologize for that. I don't mean to. I'll use a flower to cover that up. And I just am not sure. Do I want this over here or do I want this over here? Okay, so let's place the flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mini dimensionals, Stampin' Dimensionals, and okay, so I may have lost a leaf somewhere. I'll have to look for it. So you've got the bigger flowers, and Okay, so these little flowers work really well with the stem. So what I want is I want a little half dimensional, and then I'm going to just attach it to the end, and I'll keep doing that. It's primarily because I'm trying to get the flowers sorted in a certain way. This isn't where it's going to go. And then I've got one more flower that's by itself. And then this one has 3. Okay, let me turn this over now, and I'm going to add glue dots to the stem. Okay, so you can see where the little dimensionals, they overhang, so it's going to help it stay in spot. But I need some dimensionals in places just to kind of help secure the stem. So what I typically do is I'll take my dimensional and I'll roll it so it's long. So you can see it's just a long little piece right here, and I'll place it where I need it on this stem. But I think for the most part, the dimensionals will help hold it in place. But there's a few places that I feel like it needs just to help secure it. So one more. Okay, so now just tuck this in into the photo. So we know those are in place, and now I can add this one because this one doesn't hit all the stems. There we go. All right, and then we've got these little leaves. So again, I need to get some. So what I do is I cut my dimensionals in half so I can get these little dimensionals. I don't know, you can kind of see where the cutout is. And then I'll use my little tweezers to pick those up and place them. And I need them behind the leaf. And I'm only going to adhere at one end. And I'm using the smaller leaves for these. And then I need this to be placed. And then I think I'm going to do okay, so these just need a bigger dimensional in the middle. It pops them up off the page, which is really pretty. And I'm just doing it whichever way because And then these get tucked under edge of a flower. I think we'll do this one over here. We don't want to cover up any of the sentiment. Okay, and then let's see, that one needs to be put down right there with the yellow, so the yellow doesn't show. And then let's see, I do need this one. Okay, so now I need to figure out where I'm going to put these. This is in the bubble bath, but it's too small of an area for me to try to do the marker. I don't want to mess it up. So okay. Is that level? I'm gonna make sure it looks like it's level. Okay, so this one's going to need glue dots kind of the same way as the stem because they're so tiny. So this will need lots of them just to kind of hold it in place. And then once it's under the protective sleeve, then you don't have to worry about it unless you're taking it in and out lots of times. But typically we don't. We just let them be in there. That way grandkids can look at them. And someday I'll gift this to Matthew and Everly. But for now, I'm going to enjoy it. And this will be it other than that. So I like my stuff to overlap a little bit. I really love this layout. It's so pretty. Those flowers just make me so happy. And all right, so now I can secure this. And I'm just going to put the tear-in tape from one end to the other. It'll keep it secure. And then lots of love. Same thing, just a piece of tear-in tape from one end to the other. And we're done. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I love doing this. It makes me so very happy. And I hope that you find things that you love. I just forgot. It's so sad that I forgot how much I loved creating scrapbook pages. I'm not sure that's where I want it. Let's hope I can pull it up. It's going to have to do. Okay. We're done. And if you're watching later on YouTube, please feel free to like and subscribe or share with a friend. And I hope that you take the chance to use this as well. Use the layout however you want to. Learn a little bit about watercoloring. So you get just this really gentle, sweet little sprays of flowers. Just so pretty. All right. Oh, I forgot the bumblebees. I'll add those later. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fabulous weekend.